What if I told you that the 1930s weren't just about the Great Depression and Dust Bowls? It was a time that shaped everything you see in America today, from music and movies to how we live and think. But what's missing from the history books might surprise you. The 1930s in America were full of contradictions. On the surface, it seemed like an endless struggle with the Great Depression, unemployment, and political chaos. But beneath all of that, there were profound changes happening in the culture, the economy, and the way people thought about their place in the world. So today, let's take a closer look at life in the 1930s, not just as a time of suffering, but as a time that laid the foundation for everything that came after. The thing is, the 1930s aren't the easiest time to understand. We often focus on the economic crisis, but there's so much more going on under the surface. For many Americans, the Great Depression was just one chapter of a bigger story. There was also the rise of entertainment, the beginning of new political movements, and the ways that people managed to survive and even thrive during one of the darkest decades in history. So, what exactly did life look like? And what made the 1930s a turning point for American society? Let's start by talking about the most obvious part, the economy. The Great Depression hit America hard. Unemployment skyrocketed, and families lost their homes, their farms, and their savings. But while the economy was crashing, something else was happening. Something that would change the course of history. Even though times were tough, the 1930s saw a cultural explosion. The rise of Hollywood and the golden age of cinema gave people an escape from the harsh realities of daily life. Movies like The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind became iconic. But what made these films so special wasn't just their stories. It was how they reflected the hopes and dreams of a nation struggling to stay afloat. They offered people a glimpse of something better, something bigger than their troubles. And speaking of hope, this is also when music became a powerful tool for expressing the struggles and resilience of the people. The 1930s saw the rise of jazz, swing, and folk music. The music of artists like Billie Holiday, Duke Ellington, and Woody Guthrie gave people something to hold on to when everything else felt uncertain. The sounds of the 1930s are still with us today, shaping everything from pop culture to social movements. But while entertainment was helping people escape reality, the reality itself was harsh. Farmers, especially, were hit the hardest. The Dust Bowl turned thousands of acres of farmland into barren wastelands, and millions of people were forced to pack up and leave their homes in search of work. The Great Migration saw African Americans move north to cities like Chicago and New York, looking for jobs and a better life. For many, the 1930s were a time of displacement, uncertainty, and survival. Then, there was a New Deal. President Franklin D. Roosevelt stepped into office in 1933 with a promise to fix the economy and give people hope. The New Deal programs helped create jobs, build infrastructure, and provide relief for the unemployed. While not everyone agreed with his policies, there's no doubt that the New Deal changed the landscape of American society. It set the stage for the modern welfare state and reshaped the relationship between the government and the people. But here's where it gets interesting. While the government was working hard to fix the economy, the people were already starting to change things on their own. There was a cultural revolution happening in the background. The 1930s saw the rise of new ideas and movements that would influence the future of America in a major way. Take, for example, the rise of labor unions. The 1930s were a time of intense labor strikes, where workers stood up for better wages, working conditions, and rights. This period helped push the labor movement to the forefront of American politics. And it wasn't just about workers. It was also about women and minorities starting to make their voices heard in ways that hadn't been possible before. One of the most important moments of the 1930s was the creation of the Social Security Act in 1935. This wasn't just about giving people money. It was about creating a safety net for the elderly, the unemployed, and the disabled, something that would become a cornerstone of American society for generations to come. The 1930s were also a time of new ideas in politics. The rise of populist movements, like those led by Huey Long and Father Charles Coughlin, revealed how divided the country was about how to fix the economy. Some wanted more government control, while others wanted a more free market approach. These debates helped shape the political landscape for decades to come. The 1930s were a time of hardship, no doubt, but they were also a time of immense change. The struggles of the Great Depression, the rise of new cultural movements, the changing role of government, all of these things laid the groundwork for the future. The lessons learned from this turbulent decade would influence everything from the civil rights movement to the modern welfare state, and the echoes of the 1930s can still be heard in America today. If you found this look at the 1930s fascinating, hit that subscribe button for more animated history breakdowns like this one.